So you're interested in turning words into embroidery. Sounds easy enough. But there's a couple of things you want to keep in mind before you embark on this journey. Number one, what words are you trying to turn into embroidery? Is it a idea of a saying or something that you have in mind, and you just want to make embroidery out of it? Or is there an image of words that you want to have turned into embroidery? Well, that is the two-part question that we need to answer. But once we find out the answer to that question, it is quite simple to turn words into embroidery. So let's get started. Now, turning words into embroidery can be straightforward if you know what words you want to turn into embroidery and just want to turn them into embroidery, not from an image of some words. So in that instance, you have a lot of control, and it's fairly simple to get the words that you want to have done. There's two ways to go about doing this. Both ways I would suggest using a program called Sew What Pro. This is Sew What Pro, and Sew What Pro is an embroidery editing program that is very affordable. It's a power packed little program, very simple to use, and it is $65 for the program, as opposed to the high cost of a lot of other embroidery editing programs out there. Now, this particular program is available on a trial basis on my website, thebabiesbooty.com. So you can check there and use the trial. Meanwhile, where we need to start is finding a font to use with your editing program. So let's go online and find us a font. One of my favorite font websites is stitchtopia.com. Stitchtopia.com is full of absolutely beautiful fonts that you can use for embroidery. These are all embroidery fonts. All of them have different size ranges. Like, for instance, this After Hours font goes from 3/4 of an inch all the way up to a 2-inch size, and I absolutely love this font. But her fonts are amazing, and they always stitch out beautifully. So if you would like to purchase one of her fonts, we do have a discount code for our viewers. It's A5E57. If you enter that code in at checkout, then you will get 10% off your very first order with stitchtopia.com. Now, the font that I've chosen to use is this one. It's called After Hours. So the After Hours embroidery font is what we will purchase. If you click on a font that you want to use for her on her website, it will bring up a larger image, but it also shows you a preview of what each letter will look like when it's stitched out. So you can decide if a specific font will fit your project. All right, so once you make the purchase of the font, then you can bring it over into Sew What Pro. So make sure you pay attention to where this font downloads. Then you unzip that folder, and then make sure you know where that unzipped folder is, because we'll need to use that to port over your font files into Sew What Pro. Now, going back into Sew What Pro, let us open up that font folder. So we'll go into Open. And mine is in my embroidery file. So we'll go into embroidery, and then I'll go into letters and Stitchtopia. The font was After Hours, so we'll click there. And here we have After Hours. So the very first thing I want to do is bring in the first letter of the design that I'm going to use. So we'll just do the word Mom. Okay. So I chose 3/4 of an inch. And I'm going to bring that in. And now I'm going to click right here on the info icon view and bring in the other two letters, the O and then the M. Now I have a full tutorial on how to use info icon view and one other way on how to use fonts in Sew What Pro. So definitely check those out. If you're on YouTube, a link should pop up here. If you're not, then I'll have a link in the description on Facebook. So here I'm going to bring these letters over and get them to line up the way I want. So here now I have the word Mom, and then I'm going to center this, center pattern. So now this is directly center into my hoop, and I can now stitch this out. So we'll close out the info icon view. We have 3 color stops. If I wanted to all stitch out without stopping, then I'll edit, join threads, join all the threads, and now we just have 1 color stop. So this will stitch, and that's how I turn the word into stitches of the word mom. But say for instance you have an image of words that you want to have turned into embroidery stitches. Well, that's called digitizing if you have an image that you want turned into stitches. So there's a couple of ways we can do that. We have a program called Sew Art that is a sister program to Sew It Pro that you can use to digitize an image. And that is a free trial for that is on my website. I also have a program called Will Come Hatch that I use to digitize, and that's what we'll use today. And I'll show you what auto digitizing looks like. So for those who don't have experience in digitizing, so Art is an auto digitizer, and Will Come Hatch has an auto digitizing feature as well, and we'll show you how that works. So for auto digitizing, what you would need is an image of what you want to have switched over into embroidery. Now, I typed out the code for Stitchtopia, and I also have some words to go with it, and I took an image of that, a screenshot, and put it on my desktop. So here we have the wording that all I did was I typed it in Notepad and took a screenshot. All right. So this is what we're going to auto digitize today. So in this, we'll go to the tab on the left hand side that says auto digitize. And then here we have auto digitize instant embroidery, auto digitize embroidery, click the fill. All of these help you auto digitize, but we're going to go ahead and click the instant embroidery. And what that's going to do is change all of this, the black lettering, into embroidery. So let's auto digitize. And so now we have our wording digitized so that you can stitch this out. So this is now embroidery stitches, just that easily. And Sew Art does that as well. This program, Will Come Hatch, does it. This program is $1,000 at the time of filming this. And Sew Art, which is also an auto digitizer, is $75. Now the free trial to Sew Art is available on my website. So you can click there to give this a shot. All right, so let me explain to you why I'm not a huge fan of auto digitizing lettering. So when you scroll in on the letters, you'll notice a lot of things that aren't going to stitch out looking great. Like for instance, you see how here on this side of the letter V is nice and neat, but over here is kind of doing its own thing. Well, auto digitizing isn't the best at translating how to digitize a font, which is why it's better to go purchase the fonts from someone who digitized that font at Stitchtopia versus you auto digitizing it yourself. But if you're specific about what font it is that's being used, then maybe maybe digitizing is the only option you will accept. So notice here this letter Y is even doing its own funky thing here. So when that stitches out, it's just not going to translate well. But at least you would have the ability to turn your own lettering, an image of your own lettering, into fonts if that's the way you choose to do so. So again, you can use Sew Art or Will Come Hatch if you have an image of words that you want to turn into embroidery. But if you have no image of the words that you want to turn into embroidery, you just have words that you want to stitch out, well, there's options that are available to you. You can go to Stitchtopia, find a font that you like, and you can turn it into whatever wording you want by using a text editor like Sew What Pro in order to create that embroidery file for you to stitch out on your embroidery machine. If you have any other questions, just reach out and we'll see about getting them answered in a follow-up video.